Hello everyone, this is Marty. I am the VP of Interpreter Success at Cymo, as well as the VP of Americas and European markets. It is my pleasure today to share with you the innovation at Cymo to streamline the interpreter's workflow with our newest computer-assisted interpretation tool, Cymo Note. I will be walking through how to use Cymo Note and demonstrate how Cymo Note can facilitate the entire interpreting workflow from preparing for a meeting, delivering interpretation, to managing the linguistic assets accumulated after the event is over. Let's take a look. Let's start with a tour of the Cymo Note interface. At the lower left-hand corner, we have engine selection, input sound source selection, the two input languages, and the Start Captioning button. At the lower right, we have interface tools such as pagination and display options. Upper left-hand corner, we have settings, our proprietary glossary and force replace functions, which I will introduce later. The term lookup bar, your remaining minutes or credits, and your account information. Now that you have taken a closer look at the interface, you might be wondering what Cymo Note can do and how it can help you in your interpreting work. Let's start with a demonstration of the basic setup. Let's say this is the first time I opened Cymo Note. Our first step is to select the input language pair and customize the display mode. We can do that by going to Settings button up here, then select the input language pair. You can see the drop-down menu, and here I have my pair in English and Chinese. In my case, of course, you can customize this based on your languages. Next, we will set the display mode, and here we have two options, scrolling and flipping. Scrolling mode is more fitted for Cymo scenario, while flipping behaves like a notebook and you can page flip, and is more suited for a consecutive scenario. Now, since I'm assuming that we're interpreting simultaneously, so I have it set to scrolling, and we will be returning to the main interface. Now it's time to select our engine. Down here we can see that there are 4 engines currently available. We have our very own Cymo ASR, Microsoft, Tencent, and iFlyTech. It's worth to note that speech recognition engines can vary across languages. That is why we made sure Cymo Note is compatible with the industry's leading speech recognition engines. You can select the appropriate engine for you based on your needs, your client's needs, the intensity of the task at hand, as well as cost considerations. If you become a Cymo subscriber, you can have unlimited use of Cymo's ASR engine, and you can use it during your interpreting practice and professional work, which we will demonstrate very soon. Next, we're going to select the source of our sound from within the computer, which is system sound, or from an external microphone. Now, if we hover over this microphone button down here, we can see a list of the available devices that I can choose from. Now you can see I have quite a bit here, and down here there's something called the Cymo virtual cable. Normally on a PC, you can just select system sound, which is usually up here with the default selections right up here, and you can see that mine is different since I'm on a Mac, but usually you can just select system sound when you're on a PC. But if you're on a Mac, you will need a virtual cable. If you have commercial virtual cables, those will work perfectly fine, such as Loopback. But if you don't, you can download our very own internally developed Cymo audio driver, which includes Cymo virtual cable. That way you can route sound from any application on a Mac directly into Cymo Note. We designed input selection this way so that you can use Cymo Note in remote as well as on-site meetings. For remote, you can use system sound on a PC and use Cymo virtual cable on a Mac, as mentioned. For on-site, you can use hardware audio cables like these to connect Cymo Note with the interpreter console for Cymo work or an external microphone, or just use the built-in microphone for consec work. In fact, Josh has an excellent video on this very topic. Again, if you're on a Mac and don't have virtual cable software, you can download ours for free on our website. Now let's take a look at what Cymo Note can do out of the box. Let's say that this is a remote conference over Zoom, and you can see that the remote host is sharing their slides. Regardless of which ASR engine you select, Cymo Note can caption everything that is said and highlight numbers. That way you no longer have to worry about missing such important information. Let's take a look.
So we are currently already experiencing the impacts of climate change at 1.1 to 1.2 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And it is likely that global average surface temperature will cross 1.5 Celsius in less than 10 years. Indeed, the World Meteorological Organization estimates that we have a likely as not chance of crossing 1.5 at least temporarily in the next 4 years.
It's worth mentioning that unlike many other speech recognition software on the market, Cymo Note allows you to switch between languages live. This is designed to help interpreters quickly switch between the two input languages so that you are covered even when panelists have a heated discussion. There are also other convenient functions that are built in, including auto stop when there's no sound for 10 minutes, as well as adjusting the caption font size in the interface. To enable auto stop, you can go to the settings menu up here and toggle the selection that says auto stop after 10 minutes of silence. And you can adjust the font size by clicking the ellipsis at the main interface at the lower right hand corner and adjust the slider to find the best font size for your needs. All of this is just the basics and not the most powerful part of Cymo Note. Let's look at how you can import your own glossary to get term highlighting and prompting, as well as force replace any false recognitions the engine outputs.
And crossing this 1.5 degree threshold is very significant because it is linked to a number of feedbacks and tipping points in the climate system.
By clicking the small dictionary icon near the upper left corner of Cymo Note's interface next to settings, you can copy and paste from your own table-based terminology database or spreadsheet. This simple copy and paste method is designed to ensure ease of use and compatibility with any table-like database. You can also manually enter the term pairs if needed, making it very simple and intuitive to use. As you can see, Cymo Note now highlights the terms that are present in the glossary during captioning and prompts its equivalent translation to the right. This way, you don't have to worry about drawing blanks ever again when interpreting.
Has an effect on the circulation of the ocean and atmosphere, and we're already seeing slowing of that overturning. But we can't just turn off CO2.
We all know speech recognition isn't perfect, especially when it comes to slangs, abbreviations, and proper nouns. It is not unusual for speech recognition engines to misrecognize what was said. This is precisely why we developed the force replace feature, allowing you to set up custom force replace rules so that similar misrecognition will be corrected automatically.
Look at this graph from the most recent IPCC report.
Of course, if you have to manually enter terms and force replace rules every time, it can be quite tedious and unrealistic. Here at Cymo, one of our most important design principles is to ensure users can achieve their goals in the shortest amount of time with the shortest amount of steps. And Cymo Note has taken the interpreter's routine into full consideration.
This is because the carbon cycle is very slow.
Whenever a new term appears, you can either double-click or right-click to look up individual words,
but we can't
or click and drag over multiple words to get real-time machine translation. If the translation is to your satisfaction, you can click the little star to its left to store the term pair into the glossary automatically. You can also click the force replace icon to the right to enter your custom force replace rules. This way, if you encounter a term that you haven't seen before, you can quickly get a machine translation of that term, then add it to the glossary to have Cymo Note highlight and prompt its translation in the future. And if you don't like the machine translation generated automatically, you can highlight to get that translation and click the machine translation that you want to replace. And that's when you can enter your very own. I'm going to put in mine.
Noxious smokes, showing orders,
and
health
press
danger
enter,
for
and
human
you will see
and
that all
animals,
the terms are prompted
stability
and the
hazard,
terminology
and
added.
environment destruction.
8
It's
of
worth
warming
noting
Celsius
that this kind
compared
of
to
repeated
methane, which is
prompting
about
allows us
0.5,
to learn
even though the
as we
concentration
interpret
of
like
methane in the
never before.
atmosphere is about 200 times lower.
Alright, now that we are familiar with all the important features of Cymo Note, let me show you how I use Cymo Note in both Cymo and Consec work scenarios. Let's first take a look at the now ubiquitous remote simultaneous interpretation scenario. The first step is to make sure all the settings are correct, that we have the two correct languages selected, and if not, like before, you can go into the menu or settings to select your language. We also want to make sure the display mode is correct because we're interpreting simultaneously, and here we have a display mode set to scrolling. We'll come back, and then we want to make sure we have the correct engine selected. And now we can see that I have Microsoft ASR selected since it is currently the most robust on the market in 2023. Let's look at our input sound. I have sound being routed from Zoom to Cymo Note through Cymo Virtual Cable. And the sound input source is correct. Since the speaker is speaking in English, I have English selected. Now everything is ready and I can start the engine.
These tipping points. While cutting CO2, again, is absolutely essential, it is not sufficient to slow warming in the near term. If you look at the blue curve, you will see that even if we were to stop emitting CO2 tomorrow, we would not see appreciable
Now assume that my
decrease
partner
in
is
warming
currently
for
interpreting.
decades.
This is when I can look up
This is
some
because the
terms
carbon
that I
cycle
haven't
is
seen
very
before during
slow.
preparation.
The
I can
concentrations of
highlight
CO2
these
in the
terms or
atmosphere, once they're
phrases
there,
by
take
double-clicking
decades to centuries to millennia to remove. But we can't just
or
turn
click
off
and drag over
CO2.
them to
If
get
you
their
look at the red
translation.
curve, you
Then
see
I
the
can add the
combined
new
effect of
terms to the
stopping
glossary.
CO2 emissions and the co-emitted aerosols, in particular reflected sulfates. What happens when you stop burning
I can
fossil
also use
fuels
this
is you stop
opportunity
emitting
to
both the
correct any
CO2
mistakes from
and
speech
those
recognition
reflected
by
aerosols,
defining
and
my
you actually
own
get
force
near-term
replace
warming.
rules for each of them.
You can see this when we look at this graph from the most recent IPCC report, which shows a contribution to current warming from a number of pollutants. In red, you can see the carbon dioxide is approximately 0.7, 0.8 of warming Celsius.
You can see all the relevant
compared to
terms
methane,
have been
which is about
highlighted
0.5,
and their
even
translations
though the
prompted.
concentration of methane in the atmosphere is
You can
about
see at
200
the
times
bottom
lower.
the numbers are being recognized and
And then you can
highlighted.
see in the red box the sulfur dioxide, which is this reflective aerosol that's co-emitted with burning fossil fuels, in
Lastly,
particular
see our
diesel
force replace rule
and
working as it
coal.
corrected another
And so
misrecognized
methane
word
is an
according to our
extremely
rules.
potent, short-lived greenhouse gas. And if we apply all of the known mitigation.
Now, we've just presented a scenario where my partner is interpreting. You might be wondering if your partner can join in. Of course, we have taken that into our design as well. You can share Cymo Note with your partner and allow them to make their edits while you're interpreting. To do that, you go to System Setting again, and right below the Language Selection drop-down menu, you can see the Share Notes with Other Users button. You can click Generate Link, and there will be a prompt noting you that you'll be sharing your glossary as well as force replace rules. We acknowledge. And this will generate a URL that you can send directly to your partner either via email or any chat messaging app. That way, for one booth, all you need is one Cymo Note account, and both of you can share your learnings and discoveries as you interpret. This also makes sure that both of your terminology is aligned and create a more cohesive interpretation output despite handovers, and allow your audience to have a more pleasant listening experience. Let's now take a look at the consecutive scenario. Again, before I start interpreting, it is good practice to confirm our settings. Click Open Systems menu again. This time I'm going to set display mode to flipping. Then to the lower right corner of the main interface to click the ellipsis and enable Consec bookmark. Once we have confirmed the correct engine and input source, I can turn recognition on. And from now, every time I start taking notes for a new segment, I can quickly click the Drop Consec Bookmark button here, which will mark the beginning of the segment. This will allow me to quickly return to the beginning of the segment once the speaker stops speaking and it's time for me to interpret. If you have a tablet or a digital drawing board, you can go once again to the lower right corner and enable Consec Bookmark, Consec Layout, and Drawing Mode. Once you've confirmed the engine, input source, and input language, you can drop a bookmark and begin captioning. This time, you can use your stylus and take traditional consecutive notes on the right side of the interface and directly over the caption output. Once again, by clicking the Return to the Previous Segment button, you will be prompted back to the beginning of this segment. We see that Cymo Note is much more than a simple captioning software. It is a professional computer-assisted interpretation solution. Since its inception, it was designed to serve the conference interpreting profession and meet the entire workflow needs of a professional interpreter. This means that it is built to facilitate the entire value creation and delivery process from prep to performance to maintaining the linguistic assets after the event. Let's take a look at how I personally use Cymo Note through this process from the moment I receive client materials all the way until I finish the conference and archive my learnings. The first thing I do is set Cymo Note to source from my microphone. Then I take the client material or any publicly available information about the event and read it directly into Cymo Note. Here, what I'm trying to do is log important terms and phrases, speaker titles, and organization names into Cymo Note. I then highlight those words and phrases and see if its machine translation is satisfactory. If so, I will star it and add it to my glossary. If the engine cannot recognize special terms and phrases, I can enter them manually into the lookup field at the top of the interface. And by the same way, I can star it and add it to the glossary, so I will be prompted when I interpret. This is also a great opportunity to enter force-replace rules if necessary. When I'm done with preparation, I can have the confidence that unless I manually deleted everything that is in Cymo Note glossary, everything that you have logged up to this point will remain, and Cymo Note is ready to take on the conference. When it is time for you to perform, if you encounter terms that you have not seen before, you can star it and add it to the glossary. And just like the preparation phase, any recognition mistakes, the engine output can be corrected by creating your own force-replace rules. After the conference, I just open the glossary and I have all the terms that I've accumulated during preparation and the interpreting stage, and all I need to do is simply copy and paste them into my traditional terminology database. Now that we walk through the entire interpreting workflow assisted by Cymo Note, many of our colleagues might be understandably concerned about becoming reliant on Cymo Note. We have good news. Since May 2022, when Cymo Note entered beta testing, many professional interpreters have put Cymo Note to the test under live working conditions, myself included. I have personally used Cymo Note to provide interpretation to my 4 major clients and have worked on over 30 individual webinars. From all of our live testing and experimenting, we have noticed a pattern. And that is, new users will for a short time put increasing attention to the recognition results. But as the user gain experience working with Cymo Note, we see that attention drops back down and gradually stabilize over time. At the end, a single glance is all that is needed to get the information the user needs. This is precisely why that I personally encourage all interpreters, if you're interested in trying Cymo Note, to spend a little time integrating Cymo Note into your practice sessions. That way, you'll be able to become familiar with Cymo Note from a technical perspective and know exactly when to refer to it when needed. Once you cultivated experience and familiarity with computer-assisted interpretation tools like Cymo Note, I promise you that you will begin to notice a significant quality improvement in your output. And that's it. I hope I have demonstrated that Cymo Note not only can help improve our interpretation output, but also help us streamline the entire professional workflow, from preparation to conclusion. Cymo Note can help you prepare for more efficiently and effectively by reducing the steps needed to look up and file new terms while getting used to enunciating the terms. When you are performing, Cymo Note will highlight and prompt terms that you've logged into the glossary, as well as numbers, so that you will never miss out on important information or be burdened to remember very long titles and organization names. ASR engines are now powerful enough to dictate speakers with common accents, however difficult, and allow interpreters to deliver the final product at a higher quality and better accuracy. Finally, at the end of the conference, Cymo Note can help you easily export all the linguistic assets you have accumulated and save them in one convenient step into your usual terminology database. You can also export the caption results as a script so that you can increase your value offering to your most important clients. You can go to our website to download the Cymo Note app or use the web version. The URL is www.cymo.io/en/note.html. And those are the features and functionalities of our newest offering, Cymo Note. My name is Marty, VP of Interpreter Success and European and American Markets. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. Josh and Nora, back to you.